Welcome to Ag Gateway's session on dealing with dysfunctional behavior in meetings. My name is Marilyn Hunter, and I'll be leading you through this session. Thank you for choosing to review this presentation. The purpose of the presentation is to help provide you with some ways to deal with dysfunctional behavior in meetings. Let's get started. What is dysfunctional behavior in meetings? In the book, Secrets of Masterful Meetings, Michael Wilkinson defines dysfunctional behavior in meetings as any activity by a participant that is consciously or unconsciously a substitution for expressing displeasure with the session content or purpose, the facilitation process, or outside factors. Dysfunctional behavior is a symptom, not a root cause. I find one of the best ways to deal with dysfunctional behavior in meetings is to set some ground rules or meeting norms at the beginning of the meeting. Here are a few samples of the ground rules that I like to use. Some of these rules seem obvious, but you may not know or understand E-manners, Elmo, or take a stand. E-manners is where I typically tell a group we need everyone's full attention. So this means phones on vibrate and stay engaged in the session. Those with computers open are the ones capturing notes or flip chart information. No checking messages, texting, or email during the meeting. That can be done during breaks or lunch. If you're expecting something important, please step out. Will that work for everyone? Then I also use Elmo, and that's when I've been told either by the stakeholder that there might be some issues that have not been able to be resolved, or I know that there might be some contention or tension in the meeting. I put what Elmo represents. So if people in the meeting think that they are just rehashing an issue and we're not moving forward, anyone can say Elmo, and if the group agrees, we move on. Take a stand. This is to help move a conversation also forward. As an example, if someone were to say, well, we could do X, or we could do Y, or we could do Z, I might respond with, take a stand. Which do you think we should do so that we can focus on that one? If someone would say, that won't work, you might hear me say, take a stand. What do you think will work? The top four are basics for me, and I make sure they are in meeting rules of some sort. I find that you get greater buy-in when the group comes up with their own list rather than bringing in a list of my own. But if time is short and the meeting isn't very lengthy, then sometimes I'll bring in a set of meeting rules and ask if there are any others that we should be added. If there are, ask by a show of hand if everyone in the room is willing to abide by these meeting rules. Most dysfunctional behavior has a disruption factor in your meetings. Looking at ways to minimize the disruption is key to keeping your meeting on track. Here are a few dysfunctional behaviors that typically have a low impact on a meeting. People arriving late at the start of your meeting or coming back late from breaks. Those that have to check out early. Those that are silent, or people that are just not participating. The physical, folded arms or facing the door or windows sometimes is a way of checking out. Each of these might have minor impact, but if not curtailed at this level, they could accelerate the disruption. Keep in mind that dysfunctional behavior is not the root cause. Sometimes it's good to check in with people, such as, when taking a break, indicate that what time you're going to be starting up again, instead of saying, we're taking a 10-minute break. I like to use a clock in the room and say, we'll start back at 10:15 on this clock. If people are late returning back from a break, don't wait for them. Continue, as you want to be respectful for those that did return on time. If someone isn't participating, you can take time to ask a question and direct it to someone else, and then ask the non-participating person or persons for their thought. If you see people with their arms folded, especially women, they might be cold, so you might want to ask the group if the temperature in the room is comfortable. These are just some of the ways that you can deal with some of this dysfunctional behavior. Some of the dysfunctional behavior that can add more of a disruption to your meeting are side conversations. I personally have difficulty filtering noise, so I always share that defect and ask that we only have one conversation at a time. When I see another conversation going on, I'll typically wait for the person talking to finish, then ask those that are having the side conversation, is there something you want to share with the group, or was there something said that was unclear? Sometimes there are issues that need to be put out on a table and discussed, but if it's just a side conversation, many times it will help to curtail that. Armchair quarterback. This is a person who offers advice or an opinion on something in which they have no expertise or involvement. Many times they put down other suggestions from those that do have the expertise or involvement because they have an opinion and they want to be heard. This is one that when ideas are being put down, you might want to ask, in your experience in this type of situation, how did you handle it successfully? Or can you explain specifically what your experience was with this type of situation? Doing work other than the meeting. This one, you typically don't know what the root cause is, so many times I'll wait for a break and address individually. You may want to empathize by saying something like, it looks like you're very busy with some of the work other than this session. Is there a deadline you're trying to make, or is the session just not keeping you interested? If it's a deadline, you might suggest something similar to, is this something you need to step out for, finish up quickly so that you can return to participating? Get agreement on a solution, but if it's not interested in the session, ask them what would interest them for this session. Some of the others are negative physical reaction to the discussion. This is the rolling of the eyes, the smirking, exaggerated shifting in chairs or papers, folders, or anything else on the table. Anything to let people know they're unhappy with what's going on. You as the leader or facilitator can see that quicker than most because you're at the front of the room. You may want to ask the person, is there something you'd like to add, or is there a different opinion you have about the direction we're going in? Audible signs of displeasure I deal with very similar to a negative physical reaction. If either of these continue, you might want to take a break and talk individually with the person. Find out what's bothering them about the subject, the process, or is it something unrelated, such as a medical condition or personal issues that might have them reacting this way. Sometimes we're not even aware of the disruption that they're causing. Hopefully, as a leader, you've addressed the dysfunction as it starts so that it doesn't get to the high dysfunctional behavior listed here and disruption within your meeting. But when somebody starts with negative comments about a participant instead of the topic, or verbally attacking a participant or facilitator, you need to ask for another ground rule: respect for all participants. I consider this high dysfunctional behavior and disruption to any meeting. You can remind that person that it is perfectly fine to disagree with the topic or the ideas of the person, but that it is not okay in a meeting to verbally attack or make negative comments to or about persons, especially those around you. If this is too disruptive for the person, take a break. Ask that person individually, if you were in my shoes, how would you handle this situation that's just come up? See what they think. They may provide some background for you. They may offer to leave the meeting. In these situations, it typically turns out to be a personal issue that has nothing to do with the situation, decision, or process involving the meeting. It's more of a personal history with a person or a decision. You can't change it right then. Here is some extreme dysfunctional behavior which will cause extreme disruption in a meeting. When people get so frustrated, angry, that they either leave the room in disgust or actually physically attack someone, that is a time to stop a meeting and take a lengthy break. This will give you an opportunity to call the sponsor and provide background and any suggestions you have for moving forward. Ask the sponsor or the group what they would suggest should be done. If they were in your shoes, have some options available for them. What are some effective strategies for preventing dysfunctional behavior in meetings? So to summarize some of the things that we've talked about here, this is how I handle dysfunctional behavior in meetings. First, use conscious prevention. So again, if I'm in a lengthy meeting or one that I know that might become a bit volatile, I'll establish and get agreement on some ground rules to help prevent the dysfunction. Remind people that these rules if you start seeing some minor dysfunctional behavior. The second is early detection. Be on the lookout for dysfunctional behavior in the meeting. Don't ignore it. My experience is it will accelerate. And the third is get a clean resolution. Once you've detected it, execute an appropriate resolution strategy. While the specific strategy depends upon the dysfunction, when it occurs, the number of people involved, etc., here is a general formula for resolution. First, approach privately or generally, depending upon whether it's a group or not. Empathize with the symptoms. Not everyone's going to be happy in the meeting. Outside work pressures and deadlines may be infringing on their time and the value of their time. Address the root cause. Sometimes it's good to ask if there's anything that the person is concerned about. Other times when people are trying to do work, it's better to have that person step out to address an outside issue so that they can come back and participate. And then get agreement on solution. Make sure you have an agreement on how to address so that you can get the person back and engaged in a positive manner. I want to thank you for taking the time to review this session. I hope this session has been helpful and provided some ways to deal with dysfunctional behavior in meetings and ways to get agreement or compromise for decision. If you have any other questions, please contact our member services at the contact information here, and this information can also be found on our homepage at www.aggateway.org. This ends our session. Thank you.